Hello and welcome to Sharon Local History. Welcome to Sharon Historical Society. This is a short video about the past and future of indoor heating in Sharon and the arrival of heat pumps. We have a small display and we had this great talk, and here is Claire Forman, who talked about the past, the history of heating systems in New England.
Back to the basic facts of life, that every living thing needs food, water, air, and a safe place to live. And a basic definition of a safe place to live would have to include warmth, because without heat you can't thrive. So depending on weather and climate, heating and cooking have been linked by the need for a source of heat, and in the beginning this meant fire. I did it. Advances in technology, home heating systems have made major changes in how we stay warm, how we even build our homes, how we cook our food, and people of the past didn't have it so easy. The sun didn't always provide enough warmth to live. So, in the beginning, people in this area would come to Sharon per se because all the area around Sharon had rich cedar swamps, and the cedar is a natural wood that won't rot in water, so their homes would last for a longer period of time. In changing climate, seasons could be done outside, but in the wintertime they'd have to go inside. Now, the hole in the roof vented the smoke from the fire, but it was also the source of heat, and we still do that. I mean, when we say in the summer it's too hot to cook, we go outside and make a barbecue. So we're still doing the same things. The Puritans who came over would live in one-room houses, and they needed to build their houses with the materials that were also available in the environment. I was amazed that their roofs were made out of thatch and the chimneys were just wood. But they were added because the sparks from the fire indoors, when they had to cook or warm their homes, often caught on fire. So the house didn't last very long that way. You can also see that the inside of their houses looked very much like a campfire, and they were tied. Cooking and heating had been tied together from the beginning of time. So, as you can see, the house would be filled with smoke and ash. But as time went on, they needed to extend their living spaces. And the new space would require a source of heat. So sometimes they could add a chimney at the end of the new addition. But in newer construction, because bricks were being used for ballast in ships, and now became available. So more intricate fireplaces could be built, and the chimneys were now being placed in the middle of the homes. If you drive around town, take a look at the chimneys on houses. It will tell you the date of the house and when it was constructed. The availability of brick led to an evolution in cooking and heating, and the fireplace on the left precedes the one on the right. Note the addition of a beehive oven. That's this right there. If the oven was at the back of the fireplaces, those long dresses that women were forced to wear would catch fire easily. So when placed to the side, cooking became safer, and the burning embers and ash were placed in the opening below the oven, and they were saved to make soap and other things that the household needed. An improved cooking design was a series of events that happened, starting with Benjamin Franklin, who invented the Pennsylvania fireplace. It was basically designed as a heating stove. It burned wood. It was still relying on wood. And it had a wood grate on the bottom. It had drawers to control the draft, and it was small, and it could be inserted into a fireplace, or it could be just attached to a flue. So you didn't need extensive fireplaces. But now that they have an improved way of heating the house, they still didn't have a very good way of cooking. So in order to get the rest of the house heated that they were building, this is the major change. The Franklin stove inspired the invention of a pot-bellied stove. And these were featured in homes well into the 20th century. In 1800, Isaac Ward manufactured the first round pot-bellied stove. And see on the top they have grates, so now you're cooking and heating the house at the same time. But it was still burning wood. It wasn't until 1833 that Jordan Mott put a base on the bottom of this pot-bellied stove, and people started burning anthracite coal. But what about the rest of the house? This associate, Count Rumford of Benjamin Franklin, realized that the amount of heat going out the chimney was a major design flaw. So he designed a new kind of chimney, fireplace, and it was called the Rumford fireplace. And basically what it did was it made the fireplace much, much shallower, but it also had a narrow top, a flue, so that the heat would stay, but the smoke would go out. This is Capon House, also known as Hearthstone. It's in Sharon, and it's a prime example of the evolution of heating and cooking. If you look at the picture, you'll see that this section right here is the original house. It was just 1 story high, and that provided cooking and heat for that 1 room house. I can't imagine living in that tiny space with multiple children as this family had. However, the Capons added in 1804 8 Rumford fireplaces and a beehive oven. They were also charcoal burners, which was their trade. They harvested hay and burned charcoal on Rattlesnake Hill. They made charcoal. And they did that by taking what they considered junk wood, black walnut, up to Rattlesnake Hill. And there were lots of granite on the Rattlesnake Hill, so they would start making these pits in the granite, start the logs on fire, set them on fire, and then cover them over and let them smolder. And then when it got to the certain embers that they needed, they would have produced charcoal. And this is what it looks like when you're burning charcoal or creating charcoal. It basically could be used like coal, but it burns hotter than wood, and it was used primarily for blacksmiths and making cast iron stoves. So people started changing from wood because there was becoming a shortage of wood, so people needed to start thinking about other ways to eat and cook. People pre-Civil War were already using pot-bellied stoves to cook and heat, but cast iron rusts. And one person who took advantage of the need to maintain the cast iron stoves was Elijah Morse. Elijah Morse started manufacturing a stove polish he called Rising Sun stove polish. Now, you probably drive by the Eastern Bank in Sharon Center all the time. Well, when that bank was built, it tore down this building. And this building was the Quaker Inn, but for also a period of time, it was the store known as Turner's Store. And Elijah Morse was the son of an itinerant preacher, and they had no money. So the 3 boys basically had to board in different houses within the town, and at a very young age were trying to make a living themselves. He spent his childhood in Sharon, but during the summer of 1858 he began making stove polish using a formula given to him by his father's friend, Charles Jackson. And he made the stove polish while he wasn't working in that store in a woodshed that a man on Mr. Middleton, actually, on Depot Street allowed him to use. And then once the polish was made, he'd go door to door peddling his polish. But he put his business on hold and at the age of 19 to go and serve in the Civil War. When he returned, he and his brother Abner wanted to start their business back up and manufacture Rising Sun stove polish in Sharon. But maybe this was the beginning of the tradition. The town told him, we don't want to do business here. But the town of Canton welcomed him with open arms. Elijah Morris was a brilliant businessman, and he was a savvy advertiser, so he would rent spaces in public places along roadways, like the roof of a barn. And he'd advertise his business by painting the roof of the board with this kind of picture. And this is really derogatory, but poor woman. I would have divorced him, but anyway. This is the original billboard to say, and he's saying, why isn't there dinner on the stove? And she's going, because the stupid polish you bought is deficient. It's not as good as Rising Stone. Polish, and I've been working all day, and that's why I didn't put your dinner on the table. Elijah Morris started, or with his brother started, advertising Rising Sun stove polish using trading cards like we collect baseball cards or dim. And within a few years, the product was being distributed nationwide. He and his brother built a factory on Washington Street, and they employed hundreds of workers. He was a generous employer, and even when there was a period when business slowed and he never laid his people off, he just gave them half pay. He was elected to Congress and served as a Republican in the Massachusetts 2nd Congressional District and then in its 12th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives. There's a display upstairs that we're very fortunate to have because it's all on loan from the descendants of Elijah Morris's family. So please do go and see that during the break. Now, the problem with any kind of a heat that we use is that we always want more. And the way to get that heat has changed over time. That potbelly stove, as early as the 18th century, was being used in England to heat greenhouses by passing hot water through pipes. And then it started to be used throughout other buildings that were too large to be just heated by one stove. At the same time, there was being a major change from water power when the steam engine was invented. So often the waste heat from the steam engines that were powering the machinery, see these women working like in Lowell textile mills, they were also being kept warm by the heat from the steam engines. Basically, to me, that looks like a great big cast iron potbelly stove with somebody shoveling a lot of coal into. So, you can use coal, gas, oil, electricity, and solar. Each one have provided heat from our homes. And this is kind of just a quick timeline of how these inventions have changed the way we heat houses. And you can read as well as I can, so basic.
I hope you enjoyed this short video. I made more videos from the talks. They are on our channel. I also would like to encourage you to look at our website as well as Sustainable Sharon Coalition website to learn more about the heat pumps. Our museum is on 16 High Street and we are open 3 times a week. Don't hesitate to visit us. Thank you for watching Sharon Local History.